Hello everybody, today we're going to go through a foundation paper. This is aimed at beginners and it's a non-calculator as well, so I'm going to explain everything bit by bit. It's going to be very beginner friendly. If you want some personal coaching with your maths, or it be GCSE or A level, then please feel free to check out the link in my description. But otherwise, let's start going through each question. Again, it's aimed towards beginners, so if you're a beginner, this should be perfect for you. So let's start. So the first question is circle the answer to 150 divided by 5. So let's have a think about this. So 150, got a nice blue pen for you all today. 150 divided by 5. So there's a couple of ways that we can do this one. One way that I think is quite quick is to do, we know that 150 is 15 times 10. So you could write it like that. And then we just need to think how many times does 5 goes into 15? Well, it goes in 3 times. And then we've got to scale that up by 10. So we know the answer is going to be 30. But another way of doing it is just trying to multiply 5 and see how we get to 150. So let's just try. We'll try a couple. So we start off with 5. If we times that by 10, we get 50. And if we times that answer by 3, we get 150. So that means that 10 times 3, which is 30. So that's that answer. Again, straightforward, but best to learn it and know best practice when you do it. So we know that that's 30 for that one. So we're going to circle this answer. And then let's move on to the second question. So we've got to circle the answer to 5 minus 7. So with this one, it involves some negative numbers. So let's draw a nice little number line. Please excuse my really badly drawn line. So we'll start in this direction first. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm just picking 8 because it's just a large number. And then let's do these in the other direction. So we've got minus 1, minus 2, and then minus 3, minus 4, minus 5, minus 6, and then minus 7. So we're going to start off at 5, and then we're going to go back 7. So let's just change. Let's have a nice green colour. So we're starting at 5. So we're going to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've started off at 5. And then from 5, we've gone back 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we know it's minus 2. So we can just circle minus 2. And then we've got that one. So this one, minus 3 times 3. So we've got 1 minus. So we know the answer is going to be a minus. So minus 3 times 3. Well, we know 3 times 3 is 9. So minus 3 times 3 will then give us minus 9. So let's circle minus 9. There we go. And let's move on to the next question. So here's one. It's a little bit more tricky, but we'll talk through it together. So P is double R. Circle the correct formula. So if you get confused with these, just think of it. Try and think of things that you can relate to in real life. So if P is, say, £10, P is £10, and we're saying that P is double R, then R would be £5. So we can see here that R is half of P, or that P is twice R. So let's check these. So P equals R over 2. So we'll write these out for each one to see if, because some of these might catch us out. So £10 equals £5 divided by 2. Well, we know that's not true. Yeah, because 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, so that's not 10. P equals R plus 2. So 10 equals 5 plus 2. We know that's wrong because we know that 5 plus 2 is 7. So it can't be that one either. P equals R minus 2. So 10 equals 5 minus 2. We know that's 3. So we know that that one can't be either. So let's have a look here. P equals 2R. Well, 10 equals 2 lots of 5, and we know that that is 10, so we know that it does equal 10. So I'm happy that this answer is a correct one. Remember, don't get confused by algebra. I know it can be a little bit tricky and it can be a little bit daunting, but if you ever get something like this, try and use some real amounts. If we know that P is double R, use a simple example, like small amounts of money, a £5, a £10, and then apply it, and then you can check each one. So we knew that that's not true, that's not true, that's not true, but that is true. So that's a good way to do it. Okay, let's move on to the question after that. So by rounding each number to the nearest 10, estimate the value of 31 times 18. So if you don't understand how to round numbers, then please just drop a comment and I'll do a full video on that, or we'll have a video published at some point, but let's just do it. So 31, the nearest 10 means that 31 is either going to be 30 or it's going to be 40. Yeah, because that's the nearest 10. Well, if we think we've got 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, all the way up to 39 and 40, 31's clearly closer to 30. So that one we'll call 30. And then same with 18. So 18's either going to be 10 or 20, and 18's closest to 20. So we're going to basically 31 times 18. Because it's allowed us to round the number and then estimate the value, we're going to do 30 times 20. Now I know that 20 is 2 lots of 10. So I reckon instead of doing times 20, I can do 30 times 10 times 2, because 20 is 10 times 2, so that's a bit of an easier way of doing it. So what's 30 times 10? Well, 30 times 10 gives us 300, and then if we times 300 by 2, oops, we've got an extra 0 here, so ignore that 0. So 30 times 10 times 2, and then we know that equals 600 at the end. So we know the answer is going to be 600. We've got 600 for that one, apart from my bad handwriting here, but we can tell that's 600. Okay, so let's get on to the next question involving triangles. So it says, in this isosceles triangle, so isosceles means 2 sides are the same length, not all 3, that'd be an equilateral triangle, and if none of them were the same, it'd be called a scalene triangle. So an isosceles is 2, and it even says here, AB equals AC. What that means, if you ever see AB, so if you go A to B, it just means that line, A to B. You could say B to A if you wanted. Yeah, AB or BA, either one's fine, and AC. So it's saying AB is the same as AC. So that line on the triangle is the same as that line on the triangle. So the question then says, the perimeter of the triangle is 22 centimeters. Work out the length of AB. So how do we do this? So we know that the bottom part, which just to remind you is this, is 4 centimeters. So let's call that missing part X for AB. So we've got 4 centimeters, got a red pen for you now, plus X, plus another X takes us to 22 centimeters. So 4 centimeters plus 2 lots of X, because I'm just going to combine these two. Again, if you don't know how to do that, or you're a bit stuck on that, then just comment below and I'll do a full video explaining. So that's 2 lots of X equals 22. So I reckon that that means that 2X, and let's not forget the centimeters here that I missed off. So 2X must be equal to 22 centimeters minus 4 centimeters, which is 18 centimeters, which means that X equals 9 centimeters. So we called it X, but it's actually called AB in the question. So we see here, AB, work out the length. Well, the length is 9, so let's just write that in. 9 centimeters, and because we know these two are the same, it doesn't ask this, but we know that that must be 9 centimeters as well. And then if we revert back, 9 plus 9 is 18 plus 4 is 22. So that's that one. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So let's read it out first. After school, Priya will go running, which we call R, do her homework, which we call H, or play a video game, which is V. Hopefully she'll do her homework before the video game, but who knows? So we're going to complete the list of the 6 possible orders in which she could do them. So this really is just about going through them all. I've got a little method for this that I'll show you. Basically, you start at the first one, get that one and that one, then still start at that one, get these two in the other order, and then only when you've done every combination with this at the beginning, and then you go through it that way. So I'll show you what I mean. So we start off with RHV, which is already written for us. Then we've just got RVH. Now, because there's no more combinations beginning with R, we're now going to start with the second one, which is H. So then we just pick any other order. So we could go H, R, V, and then still sticking with H because we need to run out of H's first. H, V, R, and now we have run out of H's. Now we need to start with E, V, R, H, and finally V, H, R. There we go. So that's an easy 2 marker for that one. Let's move on to the next slide. So, which statement is correct? Tick one box. So we've got these here, 17 plus 3 is less than 29 minus 10. 17 plus 3 is equal to 29 minus 10. Or 17 plus 3 is greater than 29 minus 10. Let me give you some advice if you forget which way these go. They always point towards the smaller one. So the one with the big side, so this side here, the big side is for the big number, and the one where it points, the little pointy bit, it points towards the little one. That's how you can always remember it. It always points towards the little one, okay? So let's just write these out, because rather than have it as an equation, we may as well actually write it. So 17 plus 3 is 20. So his first statement is saying 20 is less than 29 minus 10. What's 29 minus 10? It's 19. So is it pointing to the little one? No, it's not. It's pointing to the bigger one, so we know that's not correct. 17 plus 3 is equal to 19. So in this case, we don't have to think about greater than or less than. But is 20 19? No, because 20 is 20 and 19 is 19, so that's not true. So this one must be true, but let's do it. 20 greater than 19. And does it point, so the little pointy bit here, does it point towards a small number? Yes, because 19 is smaller than 20. And is this bigger bit, this bit here, looking at 20? Yes, it is. So it must be that. Okay, so we've got that one, and we've got the working where we've done all the little bits, the way we've written it out. So this next part that says work out 60 divided by 2 plus 4. So we need to be a little bit careful with this. Remember your rules in maths. And again, if you can't remember, either drop a comment or a link to another video where we explain. So there's lots of different names for this. People can call it bod maths, and there's all sorts of different things. But for this specifically, all you need to know is division comes before addition. So we need to do this in this order. We do 60 divided by 2 first, and then we add 4. The good thing about this question is it's written in the right order, because you've got your division here, and then you've got your plus. So it's quite easy for us to do, I think. So let's just write that out. So 60 divided by 2. Well, 60 divided by 2 is sort of like 6 divided by 2, but 10 times bigger. So that'll be 30. And then we've got 30 plus 4, which was 34. So we've got a nice, easy mark for that as well. The only thing that might trip you up with that is just remembering the order that these go in, because sometimes the question might be written like this. It might say something along the lines of 4 plus 60 divided by 2. And some people might get confused because they'll say, well, 4 plus 60 is 64. And 64 divided by 2 is 32. Some people will get that wrong, when in actuality, you must do this first. It doesn't matter what order it's in, you do division before addition. So you do 6 divided by 2 first, which is 30, then add your 4 and you get your 34 like we've got. Okay? So, question 7. We've got 2 things here, cereal and pasta. By the way, I am doing all these questions live, so I'm literally reading them as I'm doing them. I've just got a past paper, I'm going through it also. I'm literally reading this so you can see my thought process, how I write down any comments and things like that. So it looks like we've got 2 different things here, cereal and pasta, so 2 different foods, and the cost of 100 grams. So cereal is 49 pence per 100 grams, and pasta is 14 pence per 100 grams. That sounds quite good. So Leah buys 400 grams of cereal and 250 grams of pasta. So we need to work out the total cost in pounds. So let's have a think about this. So if we know how much 100 grams cost, then we need to figure out how much 400 and 250 grams cost. So let's start with this first bit, 400 grams of cereal. So what colour should we use as pen? Let's pick green for this one. We'll have a nice green colour. So 400 grams is sort of like 100 grams, but 4 times bigger. So if I know what 100 grams cost, well, if I times it by 4, then I'll be able to get the cost. So cereal is 49 pence per 100 grams. So 400 grams, it'd be 4 times 49 pence. So what's 4 times 49? And again, you can spend some time in exam to figure that out, but I reckon that gets us to £1.96. Just so you know, by the way, for this, the reason I get to that answer is because I do 4 times 50 pence, so I add 1 pence on. 4 times 50 gets me to £2, and then because I added 1 pence on, I minus 4 lots of 1 pence to get to £1.96. You could, if you wanted to, do 4 times 40, which is £1.60. I'll leave the pound sign off. 4 times 9 is £0 but 36 pence. And then if we add all these up, we get 6, we'll get 9, we get as decimal, and then we get 1. Yeah, and I'll add the thing there. So that's why that's £1.96. So I'm just going to label that as number 1. That's the first part. But then Leah is not finished, because she also wants some pasta. And she's got 250 grams of pasta. So let's think about this one. Let's do this in a purple colour. So I reckon that 250 grams of something is sort of like 100 grams, but 2.5 times bigger. Yeah, because it's times 2.5. And remember, this one's pasta, so that's 14 pence times 2.5. So how do we do this one? Well, like the other one, we can do 14 times 2 and also do 14 times a half and add them up, because 2 and 0.5 added together gives us 2.5. So we can do that in maths, we can split it up. So 14 times 2 is 28, and 14 times 0.5 is 7. So that's 28p plus 7p. So 28 plus 7 is 35p. So the last thing we need to do is add these together, because remember, you always read the question. It says work out the total cost, and we need it in pounds. So let's pick a completely new colour for this last bit, and I'll do it off to the side here. So we've got £1.96, and we've got £0.35. So I reckon this is going to be £2.31, just because I've had that up in my head. But if you're not comfortable doing that, we can do it the normal way. So 5 add 6 is 11. So we've got 1, and we carry a 1 here. 9 plus 3 equals 12, plus the 1 that we carried equals 13. So we put 3, and we've got 1 to carry. 1 plus 0 is 1, plus the 1 to carry is 2. There we go, £2.31. I've done quite a little 2 there, but you get the point. So let's just put this. And it says do it in pounds, so that is in pounds, £2.31. Let's make that one a little bit better. So that's what we've got for that one. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, so let's move on. Again, this is live, so I'm doing every single question with you, so to speak. I'm just reading it for the first time. So, question 8a. For a set of 5 numbers, the mode is 8, the median is 12. So work out one possible set of 5 numbers. So let's remind ourselves what mode and median is, and the other one is a mean that we're not using here. So mode equals most common. So which one is there the most, basically? Again, apologies for my horrible handwriting. And the median is the middle number when you put them all in a proper line, like ascending order. So middle number. Okay. Again, if you're not familiar with your averages, drop me a comment, or we'll do a video in future when I explain all the averages. Mode, median, mean, what they mean, when to use each one, so on and so forth, okay? So for a set of 5 numbers, the mode is 8, but the median is 12. So we need to do a list of 5 numbers where the most common number is 8, but the middle number is 12. So if we've got 5 numbers, how can we do this? So the middle number's got to be 12. So we've got to do, first off, we know that 12's got to go in the middle. Yeah, and because there's 5 numbers, there's got to be 2 this side of 12 and 2 this side of 12. Yeah, so we've got number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. I'll put line number 12, I just think that looks a bit better. So we've already got number 3. So if the median's the middle number, and we know that's 12, but the mode's 8, the mode means that 8 appears the most often, okay? So 8's got to appear more than once. So I reckon we could just put 8 here, and then just do another 8 again. They're both less than 12, so they're on the right side of 12. And then for 12, we can just put 13 and 14. This satisfies everything. It's in the correct order. It's from the smallest number to the biggest number. Is the median 12? Well, there's 5 numbers, so that's the middle one. So, yep, I think that's the middle number is 12. And the mode, the most common one, is 8. Well, 14 appears once, 13 appears once, 12 appears once, but 8 appears twice. So that is the most common number. So I reckon we've got it for that, and I'll just put it in this box below where it wants us to write the full answer after the working. So 8, 8. You can use same number twice, by the way, so that's not something that you can't do. In fact, in this question, you have to do that. You have to write the number at least twice. So that's good. And then for B, here are the heights in centimetres of some children. Which height is an outlier? So the first thing that you need to do whenever you get a list in your exam, don't panic if you see a lot of numbers. Just think to yourself, is this list in order? And if it's not in order, the first thing you do is put it in order. So I'll write it here in order. And the good thing, if we accidentally miss one, we can just fill it in. So let's see here. So let's start. Which one's the smallest here? I think that's 85. I'll just mark that off. 85. Then we've got 91. 91, because there's 2 lots of 91. Then it looks like 98. So again, cross out 98. And then we've got, I can see the last 3 now. So 102, 103, and 159. For you in your exam, if you want to mark them off, you can do. Because I'm doing this digitally, I'm just going to now erase this, just because it looks a bit bare for a student if you want to have a proper look at the question. So I've got it in order. So it's saying, which height is the outlier? Well, this question really just applies some common sense. So let's have a look at each number and we'll think about whether it's an outlier or not. So an outlier means it's massively different to everything else. Yeah, so if you've got £5, your friend's got £5, your other friend's got £6, but then your other friend's got £1 million, they would be the outlier. So let's look. So 85. Well, is that an outlier? Well, we've got to compare it with some other numbers. So what's the other numbers? 91. So the 6 centimeters difference here. I reckon that's pretty okay. 6 centimeters height is pretty small. 91 to 91 is obviously 0. So don't need to worry about that. 91 to 98, that's a difference of 7. That's not very big. 98 to 102, well, that's another 4 difference between those. 102 to 103, there's only 1 difference. So here we go, 103 and 159. That's a whopping 56 centimeters of difference. So that's nearly 2 foot in difference. So clearly 159 is the outlier. So 159, I'll use a highlighter for this one, is this number here. 159 is clearly a lot different than the rest of the numbers. So again, if you get questions like this, don't panic. Just put things in the correct order. So put the smallest and all the way to the largest, and then just use some common sense like I did then. You go through it and think, well, 85, 91, 91, 98, yeah, they're quite close. Then if you've got 159 at end, that's obviously a massive outlier. So that's all we need to do for that one. So let's move on to the next question. So again, I'm reading this for the first time, so I'll read it out. So Shona has got 14 dresses. Well done, Shona, that's quite a lot of dresses. And 50% of these are red. She gives 5 of her red dresses to a charity shop. And then she buys 1 new red dress. So what percentage of the dresses she has now are red? So if you're stuck, and if you get stuck in any question like this, what you do is take your pen or take your pencil and just make some notes or make some sort of mathematical answers or things that you know as you're going through it. Yeah, so I'll do that with you now. So let's pick a dark blue for this. So Shona, she starts off with 14 dresses. Yeah, so we know that's what she starts with because the question tells us that. Okay, and if you want, tick each line as you do it. So Shona, so have we acknowledged this line? Yes, we have. Okay, 50% of these dresses are red. Well, 50% are 14. What's half of 14? It's 7. So 7 equals red. So we know that 7 are red. So we've acknowledged that line. So then it says she gives 5 of her red dresses to a charity shop. So that changes not only how many dresses she's got, but how many red ones. So now let's draw a quick line underneath this and do a new some new equations. So the new. So she gives 5 of her red dresses to a charity shop. So that means she's now got 9 dresses, because she used to have 14, but she gave 5 of them away. So she got 9 dresses in total, and because 7 were red, now 2 of them are red. So she gives 5 of her red dresses to a charity shop. That means she's now got 9 dresses and 2 of them are red. And now the next one, she buys 1 new red dress. So what happens if she buys 1 new red dress? Well, then she's got 10 dresses in total. I'll put D for dresses. D for dresses, yep. And then that means that 3 are red. So let's just recap on this journey that Shona's been on here. It's very charitable of her to give some dresses away. So she started off with 14. Then she gave 5 away, so she's got 9. Then she got a new one, which means now she's got 10. So this bit, I'm happy that this bit's correct. I'll just use my laser. This bit's correct. And then what about the red ones? Well, she's got 14 dresses. Half are red, so 7 are red. She gives 5 of the red ones away, so she's got 2 red dresses. Then she gets a new red dress, which means she's got 3 red dresses. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy that there's 10 in total. I use a different colour. 10 equals total. And 3 equals red. So what percentage of dresses she has now are red? Yeah, what percentage, sorry, of the dresses she has now are red? Well, she's got 10 in total and 3 of them are red. So the percentage is 3 divided by 10. And 3 divided by 10 is 0.3. And to convert a decimal to a percentage, you times it by 100. So that's 30, which is 30%. So again, this question might seem a little bit daunting because it's sort of designed to trick you into not realising how many dresses she's got or not got and how many's red. But just go through each bit and just tick it off as you do it. I forgot to tick that last bit. But just tick it off as you do it. Just go through. Okay, she's got 14, half red, and you make little notes like this. And when you make these little notes, you can refer back to it and then you can just check your work at end. So I'm happy that if she's got 3 dresses out of 10, that's 30%. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So we've got a triangle question. Here is a triangle. And it shows us a triangle. It says it's not drawn accurately, so don't need to worry about that. One side's 40 centimetres, another is 1 metre, and the other part is 1.2 metre. So I'm going to give you a tip. These questions will try and catch you out by using different types of measurements. So you notice here, this number and this number is in metres, but this is in centimetres. So you either need to convert this to metres, or you can convert these two to centimetres. It doesn't really matter which one you do, it'll give you the same correct answer as long as you're consistent. So I reckon we'll change everything to centimetres. So you're going to see the world's worst attempt at a triangle. So see if I can replicate that one, and that's awful, but let's see if we can make it work. Okay, probably need to work on that. So 120 centimetres. Again, I'm not going to write centimetres for the sake of this because I'm just putting the numbers in. Now, 40 centimetres stays the same, but I've changed 1.2 metres to 120 centimetres. In fact, I will write it in because we're converting them specifically. 1 metre is 100 centimetres, and 40, that stays the same. So the question is asking us to work out the length of the shortest side divided by the length of the longest side. Well, the first thing we need to do is get the shortest side and get the longest side. Now, this is where this question might trick you, because you might think, well, 1 and 1.2 smaller than 40, but it's not because this is in metres and that's in centimetres. But now we've got our fancy new little triangle, we can do it properly. So what's the shortest side? Well, what's the smallest number? 120, 100 or 40? So we know that 40 is the smallest one. So let's get the pen and we're going to do 40 here. Length at shortest side, and the longest side is 120. And then it says, give your answer as a fraction in its simplest form. So this is already a fraction, but we need to get it in its simplest form. Again, if you want a fraction to get in its simplest form, you divide both the top and bottom number by the same number until you can't do it anymore. You can change the number each time, but it's got to be the same number for top and bottom each time. So if a number's even, my tip, if both numbers are even, is divide them both by 2. So 40 divided by 2 is 20. 120 divided by 2 is 60. Luckily, they're both still even, so I'm going to do divided by 2 again. That's 10. Divided by 30. They're both still even, so we've got 5 divided by 15. Now, they're not even anymore because 5 nor 15 are even, but I reckon that 5 can go into both of these. So what's 5 divided by 5? That's 1. What's 15 divided by 5? That's 3. And I'm just going to look at my original answer. Does that make sense? 40 divided by 120. Is that the same as 1 divided by 3? Basically, is 43 times smaller than 120? Yes, it is. So I'm happy that the answer to that must be 1 divided by 3. Yep, and give your answer in its simplest form. So we've converted these, which is where the trick is. It says shortest over longest, so don't remember, always read the question, don't do longest over shortest. It's shortest divided by longest. And we know that's 40 centimetres and 120. And again, if you've done everything by metres, 40 centimetres is 0.4 metres, and 120 centimetres would be back what it was originally, which is 1.2 metres. Yeah, so if you were to convert that, that's the same as 4 divided by 12. Both of those are even, so that becomes 2 divided by 6. Both of those are even, and that is the same as 1 divided by 3. Ta-da! So it's always going to give you the same answer no matter what you do, as long as you're consistent, as long as you keep it accurate. So let's move on to question number 11. Okay, so this is actually part B to question 10, so we're not on to question 11 yet. It says here's a different triangle, and it says it's not drawn accurately, so we can't trust how the picture looks. And it says that x equals 3 lots of y, and to work out the size of angle y. So how do we do this? Well, we need to remember some facts about triangles. And what do we know about triangles? Well, we know all the sides of a triangle will always add up to 180 degrees. There we go, 180. Did that a little bit wrong then. In fact, let me just change that slightly because that looks a bit weird there. So let's do 180. There we go. That's a bit better. So let's look at these. So we've already got one angle, which is this one here. And we've got an angle y, which is part of the equation. And we've got x, which is part of the equation. So it says that x equals 3y. So I'm going to rewrite this. Rather than x, we're going to call it 3y. So this would mean then that if everything adds to 180, that means that 112, which is this part here, plus 3y, which is here, plus y equals 180. Okay, so that means that 112 plus 4y, because I'm adding these two terms. Again, if you don't know how to do that, drop me a comment or send me an email, or check out some other videos and I'll talk you through that in case you've not been taught that yet. So 112 plus 4y equals 180. So that means that 4y is equal to 180 minus 112. If you don't know how to rearrange an equation, again, let me know in the comments or check out some other videos and I'll show you how to do that step by step. So what's 180 minus 112? Well, I reckon that's 68, just because it gets us 8, goes from 112 to 120, then an extra 60 to get to 180. So I reckon that means it's 68. So if 4y is 68, so divide both sides by 4. Easy way to divide by 4 is to divide by 2 and then divide by 2 again. So 68 divided by 2 equals 34, and 34 divided by 2 equals 17. Which means the answer for that should be 17 degrees. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, so the next question we've got, I'll read this out live again. We're doing all this live together. So companies A and B sell insurance for mobile phones. The table shows the monthly cost for two types of cover, damage and loss. And we can see here, company A and B, we've got damage and loss. One thing I want to point out immediately, that it says here monthly in bold, and I can see from this question that this says year. If you see something in bold, just do yourself a favour and underline it, because it's probably giving you a hint. So if that's monthly and that says year, at some point I'm probably going to have to convert something to a year. So just put a line underneath it to jog your memory because it's really easy to miss. This is how we get caught out in exams. So let's look at the first bit. Work out the difference in monthly cost for the two types of cover with company A. Again, don't make the mistake of looking at company B. So we've got £8.65 and £12.20. So let's look at the difference between those two numbers. So £8.65, let's start £8.65. Here's how I tried to get to it. So I'm going to add 3. I'll leave the pound signs off for now. So £3 gets us to 11.65. Then if I add 50 pence, so £0.5, that then gets me to £12.15. And then if I add 5 pence, that gets me to £12.20. So let's add all these up. 3 plus 0.5 plus 0.05. So that's £3, 50 pence and 5 pence. So I reckon that equals £3.55. I'll put the pound sign in now. And here, £3.55. So the next part says Ben wants damage with company B. So again, this is this one now. How much total they pay for 1 year? So here we go. So here's the bit that's easy to miss. So total is going to pay for 1 year. So first off, we need to recognise the figure we want is damage, which is one of these two, and it's company B, so it's this. So it's £7.25. So if you pay £7.25 per month, then we know that for a year, is going to be paying £7.25 times 12. So when you times something by 12, I'd recommend timesing it by 10, also timesing it by 2, and adding it together. So I'm going to do 10 lots and 2 lots. So 10 times £7.25. And I'll put brackets around it as well so we can clearly see what we're doing. Because 12 lots of something is the same as 10 lots plus an extra 2 lots, because 10 plus 2 equals 12. So 2 times 7.25. So 10 times 7.25, that's 72.5. I'll add the pound sign now. Plus 2 lots are 7.25. Well, 2 sevens are 14. 2 lots of 0.25 is 0.5. So 14 plus 0.5 gives us £14.50. Okay, so let's just add these. So we've got £72.50 plus £14.50. So let's do this. 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 5 is 10, which is 0, but we carry the 1. 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 1 gives us 7. And 7 plus 1 equals 8. So does that sound reasonable? If it's £7.25, 12 months, yeah, because it's a bit more than 10 times that. So that sounds pretty reasonable to me. So £87. And again, one of the keys to doing this, and always remember this, if you see something that's in bold, or you see something that you think, oh, that's a bit interesting, put a line underneath it, because it says monthly, then it says yearly. So you've got to think, okay, I've got to convert these from one to other. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this next part involves fractions and equivalent fractions. One of my favourite parts of maths, because it's one of those parts that seems really daunting, but then when you learn it, it's really easy. We've got videos on fractions and equivalent fractions, but if you're stuck, just drop me a line, and if you've got a question, I'll just do a video for you and I'll talk through it, or you can drop a comment, I'll write a comment back. But I'm always happy to do videos for people if they want to learn, because that's quite often the best way to learn. So when we've got two fractions, and again, we cover this in other videos, but when you've got two fractions, you need the bottom number, so these two numbers here, to be the same. And if they're not the same, we need an equivalent fraction so that we can do it. So I'm going to take 1/3, and when you've got a fraction, you're allowed to times the top number and the bottom number by the same number and it's the same fraction. So what I mean by that is 1/3, let's times everything by 2, is the same as 2/6. If you times 1/3 top and bottom by 3, you get 3/9. And if you keep following that pattern, you get 4/12, you get 5/15, and you get 6/18. And 18 is the same as this number here. So we can actually write this as 11/18 minus 6/18, because 6/18 is the same as 1/3, so it's got the same. Now the bottom numbers are the same. We follow the rule, which is do the top as a normal sum, but keep the bottom the same, 5/18. So that's 5 divided by 18, and that's the final answer for that one. Again, those look complicated, but honestly, it's easy marks once you learn how to do the process properly. So next question, question 13. The term-to-term rule for a sequence is multiply by 2. What term-to-term means is it's how you get from one number to the other. So if I say term-to-term is multiply by 2, and the first number is 1, then that means to get the second number, we times that by 2, then it'd be 4, then it'd be 8, then it'd be 16, then it'd be 32, etc. Term to term means every single term, like what do you do to it? So in this case, we are actually multiplying it by 2. So it's saying the third term of the sequence is 46, and it wants us to work out the first term and give your answer as a decimal. Well, let's have a think about this, because this one's a bit backwards. So it's saying that 46 is term number 3. So we've got term 3, term 2, which we don't know yet, and term 1, which we don't know yet. So we've started off with a number that we don't know. We've times it by 2. And then we've times it by 2 again to get 46. So why don't we just do that backwards? So if we times by 2 to get 46, if we divide 46 by 2, that'll give us the term before, which is 23. Because 23 times 2 gave us 46. So what's 23 divided by 2? Well, it says here give your answer as a decimal, so it's probably going to be a decimal. And 23 divided by 2 is 11.5. So let's just check that. Let's say somebody told us the first term is 11.5 and the term to term is multiply by 2. Well, that'd be 11.5. Then we get to 23. Then we get to 46. So I agree, that should be 11.5 because it's the first term. Okay, next part. So the term-to-term rule for a different sequence is subtract k. So to get to the next part, you need to subtract k, where k is some sort of value. So let's have a look at the clues it's given us and we'll figure that out. So the first term is 34 and the fourth term is 10. So figure out the value of k. Okay, so I'll use this space at the side just to give us a bit more. So we start off with 34. That's term number 1. Then we go to something else which we don't know yet, which is term number 2. Something else which is term number 3. And then the fourth term is 10. So let's mark up. That's term number 1. We know that's 34 because we got told that. Term number 2 we don't know. And term number 3 we don't know. So we've got to subtract one number, then subtract another number, then subtract another number, and then we finally get to 10. So 34 minus 3 lots of this mysterious number, minus 3 lots of k, yeah, because it's got to be 1, 2, 3 lots of k, leaves us with 10. So how do we figure out what k actually is? Well, we've got to rearrange this equation. So 34 minus 10 equals 3k. I reckon that means that 24 equals 3k, and that means that k is equal to 8. So let's try it. So we've got 34, it's term 1, 34 minus 8, that gives us 26. 26 minus 8 is 18. 18 minus 8 is 10. So we're happy that that must be 10. Oops, just gone past the slide there. And because of that, we know that k must be 8. So sorry, I've lost my screen there a little bit, but k is 8 for that one. So let's move on to the next question. So we've got a question now involving vectors, and it's asking us to work out the vector that translates shape A to shape B. So the first rule we need to know when we're looking at vectors is that the positive direction is to the right and up. So if you're going to the right, it's positive. So right equals positive. Ignore my horrible handwriting, please. And up also equals positive. So that means that if we go to the left or if we go down, that's negative. Okay? So to translate a shape, you pick any point you want on the shape. So any point you want on A, because it's asking to translate shape A onto shape B. Pick one point. So let's just pick the top left bit here. And we want to see how we get to the top left bit here. So I'm going to mark these off in purple first. We've got this point, and what's the equivalent point on B? It's this point. So let's have a look. What do we need to do? How many squares do we need to move across to get there? Well, let's have a look. We're on number 2 here, and we're on number 9 here. So I reckon we need to go 7 across, but you might feel better counting it. So let's count. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I'm confident I'm actually going to put 7 in the answer here. And then, how many do we have to go down? Remember, down's negative, so we go 1 and 2 down, and let's check the numbers. So this is number 5 here, number 3 here, so that's definitely minus 2. Remember, because we're going down, it's minus 2. Always check at the end. When you've gone right, have you done positive? And when you've gone up, have you done positive? Or, to think of it the other way, have you gone left negative and down negative? Well, if we have a look at ours, just to recap, we've gone to the right positive, so that's positive 7, and we've gone down 2, but that means it's negative, so it's negative 2. Okay, let's get on to the next question. Okay, so next question, we've got some probability to do. So in a bag, there are only red discs, blue discs, and green discs, and there's 10 red discs. When one disc is picked at random, the probability, that's what P means, probability that it's red is 1 over 8, and the probability that it's blue is 2 over 5. And he wants to know how many green discs are in the bag. This is a bit similar to that other question where if we go through it line by line, we'll figure out what we need to do. So there's only red, blue, and green. I use this area to the left as well, so it's a bit better. So red, blue, and green. So we know in total, that's that, okay? There's 10 red discs. So R equals 10. And then if a disc is picked at random, the probability that one is red is 1 out of 8. So the first thing that we need to know is, if 1 out of every 8 discs is red, and there's 10 red discs, then that must mean that there's 8 times 10 discs in total. So there's 80 discs in total. Okay, so we've acknowledged that. And the probability that the disc is blue is 2 over 5. So now we know there's 80. What is 2/5 of 80? Well, 2/5 times 80. You can either times 80 by 2 and divide it by 5, or divide it by 5 and times it by 2. I'll do the easy method, which is dividing it by 5. So 80 divided by 5 is 16. 16 times 2 equals 32. So that means that there's 32 blue. So I'm going to write it up here where I put that with red. So B equals 32. So how many green discs are left? Well, in total discs equals 80. Red equals 10. And blue equals 32. So these two added is 42. So there's only green discs remaining, there's 80. So I reckon that 80 minus 42, I'll give you a few seconds to do that, and you should get to 38. So I think the answer to that is 38. So let's move on to the next question. So here's the graph of y equals 7 minus 3x, and it wants us to draw the graph of y equals 2x plus 1. So when you've got a graph, you need to mark certain things straight away, and then we can plot some obvious lines. So we've got the y-intercept, which is 1. Again, if you don't understand what a y-intercept is, we can go through that on another video. And in fact, I'll draw a little table of x's and y's here, right at the bottom. This is always helpful to plot things. Again, try and draw a better box than me. So we've got x and we've got y. This box is going to look quite horrible actually, but let's just do it. You'll have to forgive my handwriting. So we'll put in some x values: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if x is 0, if y equals 2x plus 1, then y is going to equal 1. If x is 1, 2 lots of 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. If y is 2, 2 lots of 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. If y is 3, 2 lots of 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So this is clearly going up by 2 each time. So I know that's going to be 9. So let's mark some points on the graph. So let's use a red pen, because that'll be the easiest to see, I think. So when x is 0, y equals 1. When x is 1, y equals 3. And when x is 2, y equals 5, and so on. So it wants us to draw the graph. So this is going to be the world's most horrible line as I try and do a straight line. Please use a ruler in your exam. I'm obviously using a mouse, but you can see that line's there. Again, please use a ruler, don't do that. So it's now saying work out an approximate solution to 7 minus 3x equals 2x plus 1. So if two graphs equal each other, so the graph that was already drawn, that is y equals 7 minus 3x, that's that bit, and y equals 2x plus 1 is this bit. So where these graphs cross here, that's telling us the answer to that. So let's have a look. The x value here. So we go here and let's follow it down. So we end up, and I'll just mark that. I'll switch back to my pen. So I reckon that's about 1.2. And I'm actually going to solve this so we can see. So 7 minus 3x equals 2x plus 1. That is the same as 6 equals 5x. Again, we've got videos where you can comment if you don't know how to rearrange an equation. I'll take you through it. That means x equals 6 over 5. 6 over 5 is the same as 12 divided by 10. And 12 divided by 10 is 1.2. So I'm happy that that must be that. So let's move on to the next question. So on to the next question. So this says part of this circle is shaded, and it says circle, the name of the shaded part. So for these, you just got to learn your different definitions. So an arc would be, for example, a line around here, a sector like this, a chord, that is a chord, and then this bit is the actual segment. So this is segment for this one. These are things you've just got to learn. Again, if you don't fully understand, drop a comment, or I'll do another video specifically on circles in future. So next question is work out this number, which looks like 80 million divided by 200 and give it in standard form. So in standard form, we want to start with just one number between 1 and 9 times 10 to the power of something. So it's always helpful to put some commas in, I think. Easier then to notice that this is a million, because it's 80 followed by 6 noughts. I want to divide it by 200. So two lots of these noughts can cancel. So then we'll have 8. And instead of having the 7 noughts, we're just going to have 5. So that's 80,000 divided by 2. 800,000. So that's 400,000. And because there's 5 noughts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that will equal 4 times 10 to the power of 5. And that is in the correct format. So 4 times 10 to the power of 5. Okay, let's go to the next one. This next question says, work out 3 to the power of 12 divided by 3 to the power of 7. So your rules for this, I'll just use this to the side. If you've got the same base, so the base is the 3 in this case. If you've got x to the power of a divided by x to the power of b, that is equal to x to the power of a minus b. So 3 to the power of 12 divided by 3 to the power of 7 is 3 to the power of 12 minus 7. 12 minus 7 is 5, so that's 3 to the power of 5. So let's work out 3 to the power of 5. So we'll do it bit by bit. So 3 times 3 equals 9. That's 2 times 3 equals 27. Times 3 equals 81. Times 3 equals 243. And again, you can just work this out if you need to take a little bit longer. So that's 1 to 2. So this is squared. That's the same as, if I'll just write it out, 3 cubed, 3 to the power of 4, and then 3 to the power of 5. So it's 243. So this next one says, simplify 8 times 2 to the power of 6 times 2 to the power of 4 and give your answer as a power of 2. So the first thing we need to do is convert 8 to the power of 2. So how can we write 8 as a power of 2? So 2 to the power of 1, let's just try these together. So 2 to the power of 1 equals 2. 2 to the power of 2 equals 4. And 2 to the power of 3 equals 8. So instead of 8 times 2 to the power of 6 times 2 to the power of 4, I'm going to write 2 to the power of 3 times 2 to the power of 6 times 2 to the power of 4. And this rule is like the opposite of the other, where we can add the indices. So 2 to the power of 3 plus 6 plus 4, which is 2 to the power of 13, and it asks us to give it as a power of 2, so that's 2 to the power of 13. And on to the next question. So in this next question it says, in a group of 98 students, and I'll make some notes as we go, and if there's anything important. 25 study both art and French. 10 study art but do not study French, and 41 study French. Joel draws this Venn diagram to represent the information. So the top bit is a group of 98 students. A equals the students who study art, and F is the students who study French. It says make 2 criticisms of this diagram. Well, let's have a look. So we've got a group of 98 students. Let's just check that first. So 25 plus 10 plus 41. So that gives us 6. So that's 76. So to me, there's some missing. And let's have a look at anything else. So this is a group of 98 students. A, students who study art. And that's supposed to be that one, but this is also not labelled. And F is the students that study French. Okay, so 2 criticisms, I think, is that they don't add up to the total. So that's the first thing you should check. And B, these diagrams should be labelled. Always with Venn diagrams, make sure that your things add up to the totals it says, and obviously make sure you've got some clear labels on your diagram. So that one's pretty easy, so let's move on. So this question says circle the letter of the possible sketch of the graph of y equals x cubed minus 4. So when you're learning your graphs, one thing you should know about the shape of x cubed is that for minus numbers, it's going to be negative, and for positive numbers, it'll be positive. So I can already go through this and have a look and think, well, it might be this one, because that's negative for values less than 0, because this is negative. This is negative a little bit, but I know that's not the shape. That one, it can't be C or D. But what the best thing to do is just plot some values. So draw yourself a little table, like I'm doing here. And then just do some x values and some y values, and then we'll see y. So start minus 3, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's plot some of these. And then we'll figure out which graph it must be. So minus 3 cubed is minus 27. Minus 4 is minus 31. Minus 2 cubed is minus 8. Minus 4 gets us to minus 12. Minus 1 cubed is minus 1. Minus 4 gets us to minus 5. 0 cubed is 0. And minus 4 gets us to minus 4. 1 cubed is positive 1. Minus 4 is minus 3. 2 cubed is positive 8. Minus 4 is positive 4. 3 cubed gets us to 27. 27 minus 4 is now 23. And finally, 4 cubed. So 4 4s are 16. So that times 4 gets us to 64. And that minus 4 is 60. So if we've got a little graph that we draw ourselves here, and we put as labels minus 3, minus 2, minus 1. It's obviously not to scale, it is just to illustrate 2, 3, 4. So we know that minus 3 is minus 31 around here, minus 2 is going to be minus 12 around here, minus 1 is going to be minus 5, 0 is going to be minus 4, 1 is minus 3, and 2 is where we start positive, 3 is where we go up, and 4 go further. So let's have a look here, which one of these graphs. Let's switch back to the laser pen. So this one looks very similar to that. It crosses here, and it crosses along here. This one, we know this can't be it, so we can get rid of that now. This one, we know it can't be because when x is 0, then what must y be? So if x is 0, we know that y is going to be -4, so it can't be that one, it can't be that, so it's got to be B. Sorry, it's got to be A. This one that we did here. And we can have a look, and our graph looks very similar. Just draw it. So that one's B, so let's move on. Okay, so the next question says, in a week, Samir is paid a basic hourly rate for the first 30 hours worked, and then an overtime hourly rate for any extra hours worked. And the graph shows his pay for working up to 40 hours in a week. So this bit is the hours worked, which you see goes up to 40, and this is the pay. So the question says, work out the ratio of basic hourly rate to overtime rate and give your answer in its simplest form. So let's have a look. If we want to work the basic hourly rate, well, an hourly rate, if you think how much you get paid, you'd have to look at your total cost or total pay, cost, and then divided by hour. That's the equation for your hourly rate. So let's have a look at the cost, an hour for standard. So the first 30 hours is here. So in 30 hours, and I'll just go up the graph, I'll show you with a laser. I'm going up the graph, and I can see here that's 450. So for normal, for basic, it's 450 divided by 30 hours, which is 45 divided by 3, which equals £15 an hour. So now let's look at overtime. So overtime, what is overtime equal to? Well, let's have a look. After we've gone to 30, we've got 40 hours, so I know there's 10 hours worked, and we can see we've gone from £450 to £700. So we've got 10 hours, and the difference between 450 and 700 is 250. So that's 250 divided by 10, which is 25. So the ratio of them is basic hourly rate against overtime hourly rate. So 15 and 25. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, so the next question is concerning fractions, and it wants us to, in each box, write a fraction less than 1 to make a correct calculation. So if you want your fractions to be less than 1, if you have a fraction that's a over b, and they're positive, we want b to be the bigger number. If b is bigger, that means the number will be less than 1. So we need some numbers such that a over b times c over d equals 3 over 10. And a over b times c over d equals a times c over b times d. So we just need to pick some numbers. So what two numbers could get us to 3? Well, I'd say 1, that can get us to 3, and 3 can get us to 3. And what numbers can get us to 2? Well, I think that 5 and 2 could get us. So let's try this first, and let's see where I go wrong at first. So we've got 5 and 2. So while 5 times 2 does equal 10 and 1 times 3 equals 3, 3 is bigger than 2. So it's not less than 1. So we can't have that. So what if we just switch them around? What if instead we do 1 over 2 and 5? That seems to work. 2 times 5 equals 10, and 1 times 3 equals 3. And both of these numbers are smaller than 1. So that looks good. So next question. In each box, write a decimal less than 1 to make a correct calculation to get 0.06. So this is similar to that question, it's just a decimal first. What I'd recommend doing is to go the long way around it. so that you can be sure you get the right answer. So let's change this to a fraction. And you can change things to a fraction just by dividing by 1. And then let's make that so we've got some whole numbers. So that'll be 6 divided by 100. So what two numbers can multiply to get 6 and what two numbers can multiply to get 100? Well, 3 and 2 look pretty good, but you can pick some others. And to get 100, we could do 50 times 2, or we could do 10 and 10. So let's just check if that works. 3 times 2 equals 6. 10 times 10 equals 100. So we're happy with that. We're just going to convert them to a decimal now. So 3 over 10 is 0.3. And 2 over 10 is 0.2. That seems to work. And both of those are less than 1. Okay, so that's it for that question. Let's move on to the next. Next question says, here are two shapes, P and Q. This is P and this is Q. How many times bigger is the area of P than the area of Q? And you must show your working. So let's find the area of both first. And there's some supplementary information already. So P is 3/4 of a circle, radius 20 centimeters. And Q is 1/3 of a circle, radius 15 centimeters. So let's just work out the area for each one. So remember, area of a circle, let's do the equation. The area of a circle is, let's just get this, let's pick a different pen for now. So let's go with blue. So area, excuse my horrible handwriting, pi r squared. So P area is pi times 20 squared, and then it says it's only 3/4 of it, so that's times 3/4 or 0.75 if you prefer. Q area equals pi times 15 squared times 1/3. So if we divide these two, because that'll tell you how many times bigger one is than the other. So we've got pi times 20 squared times 3/4 divided by pi times 15 squared times 1/3. So the first thing we can note is that these cancel. So then I'll just use some more space over here. We've got 20 squared, which is 400, and 15 squared, which is 225. Times 3/4 and 1/3 on the bottom. So how do we do this? So I'd split this up. Your 400 over 225. There's actually a bit of a quicker way I think we can do this. So we can keep these as 20 and 15 for now. And then we've got 3/4 divided by 1/3. So 3/4 divided by 1/3 is the same as 3/4 times 3/1. So that will equal 20 over 15 squared times 9/4. So let's think about this then. So 9/4 and 20 over 15 squared. So let's go back now to the full numbers. 225. Let's simplify this down first. So what can that equal before we times it by 9/4? So 5 goes into both of them. It goes into 480 times. And it goes into 225 45 times. We can divide them both by 5 again. That's 16. over 9. And can we times them by, Miguel? No, I don't think so. So let's now times it by 9 over 4. So the 9's now cancel, leaving 16 over 4, which equals 4. So let's move on to the next question. So this question says, solve 2w over 15 equals 4/5. Let's go through it step by step. I'll do full guides on solving equations and rearranging. So we need this to end up in the format w equals something. At the minute, w is mixed in with everything. So first I'm going to multiply everything by 15, which gives me 2w equals 4 times 15 over 5. Then I'm going to times everything by 5. So that's 2 times 5w equals 4 times 15. That means 10w equals 60. Therefore, w equals 6. So I did that pretty quickly, but let's just check that in our original equation. So 2 times w, it'd be 12. 12 over 15 equals 4 over 5. And are those two fractions equivalent? Well, let's check. 12 over 15 equals 4 over 5. Two fractions are equivalent if you have to multiply the top number to get the same top number, the bottom number to get the same bottom number with the same number. So how do you get from 15 to 3? You divide by 3. How do you get from 12 to 4? You've got to divide by 3. So 6 is definitely correct. The next question says a solid has volume 300 centimeter cubes and density 2 gram per centimeter cubed. So calculate the mass. So what's the equation for mass? Well, let's have a think. If we have volume V, if we take something such as the mass, what is the relationship between volume and mass? Well, think about your three different elements: volume, mass, and density. So if we take the mass and we divide it by the density, then we'll get the volume, which means density times volume equals mass. So density times volume is 300 times 2 gram over centimetre cubed, which equals 600 gram. And is that one of the options? 150, 298, no, 302, and then 600 at the end here. So we know it's 600 gram. So I finally got to the very last question. You'll be happy to know. So let's read through it and we'll hopefully get this last mark. So x to y is 9 to 5. So we know this is about ratio. And it says calculate calculate the value of 2x over y. So let's have a think about this. So if x to y is 9 to 5, let's do 2x's. 2x will be 2 times 9, and y will be 5, so it equals 18 over 5. Is that one of the options? That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. So it's got to be this one. So we've got to the end of the exam. A lot of questions there. If there's anything that you're stuck on, please just leave a comment and I'll do your full video replying and working through anything that you're stuck on, providing more help. If you check the links in the description as well, if you want some personal tutoring or anything like that, you're welcome to go and look at those links. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.